word, so he went to interview with the Bills. And then we all saw that experiment turned out less than great for both parties, and now he ended up as an offensive line coach with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I'm not super excited about the prospect of him coming in, and I've also heard rumors about Gase being on the short list and
he's not
potentially actually having an interview scheduled this time. I've also heard the Lions D coordinator, Terrell Austin, is in the mix. So I'm interested to see who comes out of this thing as the front runner. I don't think it's going to take very long to figure out who the Browns are interested in and who is interested in them. I don't know that we're going to be waiting as long as we did with Pettin. We waited till the Thursday before Super Bowl week to hire Pettin 2 years ago, and all accounts to me say this thing's going to go quicker than that one.
Well, with Pettin, remember, nobody else interviewed him for a head coaching job. With Chajinski, I don't know. I don't think he was interviewed by anybody else. If he was, it wasn't very many. I only see top candidates interviewing with the Browns simply for leverage for better jobs. And the reason it's a better job, not because Cleveland's not an attractive market. It's a great city. So much to do. Passionate fan base. The history of football here is unmatched. It's phenomenal. The problem comes from within the headquarters in Berea, Matt. When it takes you probably a good 5 minutes to explain how the power structure and decision-making works, that would turn off any legitimate head coach option right there. Hold on. I report to the owner. The GM reports to this VP guy, Sashi Brown, who's really the GM. All decisions, which sometimes might include me, go through a committee, and then we sort stuff. You know what? Never mind. That's cool. Like, Matt, who's going to take this job?
People don't want to hear it, but it's either going to be a first-time coordinator
Again.
Or it's going to be a retread who has no other viable option, i.e. Doug Marrone.
Yeah, like for Doug Marrone, we know Doug Marrone's about the cash. Now, a tough football coach, 9-7 first year in Buffalo, that's tough to do. He did an okay job there. But he had the out in the contract and smart enough. Listen, if you're smart enough to put it in there, the option was if the team was sold, he had the option to buy out, and I think it was either $4 or $8 million, I forget. But he put that in there, and he took advantage of it. But that, to me, Matt, says a guy who's looking to collect a check. I don't want another check collector. I have a roster full of guys looking to cash checks.
And you have also two other coaches who are still making money off of not coaching the team that they were built to coach. So you're going to be paying potentially four guys should you hire Marrone and stuff go south quickly. Not a good prospect, not a good feeling, not something you want to be associated with. You mentioned history, being great with this organization, but recent history has not been very good at all, and that's a stigma that Jimmy Haslam is going to have to fight. And even though some of it's not his history, and he'll be more than happy to say that, the last 3 years are his history, and it's been awful. So there's a lot of things to overcome before they find the head coaching candidate that they want to hire.
You're listening to The Doghouse, your inside look at the Cleveland Browns. Andy McNamara alongside Matt Florjancic from WKYC Sports in Cleveland. Matt will have tons of articles and work up on the firings, the moves, and looking ahead on Twitter at AndyMC81, at Matt Florjancic. Matt, what's the website handle? WKYC.com/sports?
Yes, sir. WKYC.com/sports.
Right. So there's going to be lots going on there. You're going to be a very busy man. Matt, another thing Jimmy Haslam said with when he met with the media was, okay, we thank everybody for their hard work, and then admitted that being an owner was harder than he thought. He said it's a lot different, obviously, than being a minority owner with Pittsburgh. So the last 3 years he's been learning. What am I missing? Why are you not trying to say, okay, the mess that I had, this reporting structure, did not work. Why are we not trying to bring in a football guy? And I know that didn't work either when he came in and you had Mike Holmgren, but why not look at, he talks to Peyton Manning a lot, look at the structure of Denver. That's something that works. Like, does he just think that, all right, well, Ray Farmer and Mike Pettine didn't get along, now we can kind of reboot it, keep the same report structure, but we'll have guys who are all on the same page to start?
I think that's the end game, is to get everybody in this current structure on the same page, and that's why they're going after the coach first and having the coach be instrumental in picking the new GM. The goal is to get everybody on the same page going forward and everybody pulling in the same direction, and by setting up the current structure, Haslam believes that's what he will get. Whether or not that ends up being the case, we'll see. Mm-hmm. It never really was the case with Pettine and Farmer. You always felt like either one of them was trying to get the attention of the owner and trying to get his ear and, really save their jobs and make power grabs that way. Hopefully that situation is avoided with this new structure, but it remains to be seen based off of who is brought in to coach and who the coach picks essentially as his new GM.
In the end, though, with the regular season done, Pittsburgh makes the playoffs again. They're going to play against the Bengals. Hopefully they just bang each other up and injure each other, and that helps the Browns out next year. But Matt, when you see, okay, the year's done, ultimately we have the second overall pick in the draft. The quarterback situation, which we will get into in the probably as soon as next week, we'll start getting into that along with the coaching searches of prospects. There are a couple of Goff, Lynch, but nobody looks to be a day one Andrew Luck. So I guess a high draft pick, and you get the 32nd pick because of the it being taken away from the New England Patriots. That's a plus to take out of the end of the season, I guess, as long as they have somebody who won't screw it up. And you have Sashi Brown, who he owned a jazz club, Matt. So that's something. He owned a jazz club. He was a lawyer and worked in the Jaguars front office as a salary cap guy, and he's going to be the lead man. At least Ray Farmer, although he made disastrous decisions, was in the personnel group. So you thought at least there was a chance that he'd be able to make good decisions. Like, I don't know what to expect out of Sashi.
And maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. Maybe I have to go in with a little blind faith myself and say, you know what, let's give this guy a chance to go make some picks before we completely throw him under the bus and say,
I guess,
he can't do it. Now, from a personnel standpoint, he has no experience to my knowledge, but, maybe that's what this team needs. Maybe they need just a fresh face who's eager to work his tail off and to please the owner. And maybe this thing will end up working. I don't know. But
Matt, last time they pleased the owner.
I know it can't get much worse from a player evaluation standpoint because the drafting of Ray Farmer was awful. So maybe, a guy who's never done it before, maybe he'll work his tail off, put the right people in place, and find some really, really, really good scouts to help build his personnel group and make some sound decisions going forward. And maybe he's the type of guy that, yes, he did get a promotion that maybe he wasn't technically qualified for, but maybe he knows that, the opportunity is there and he's going to seize it and run like hell with it and work his tail off. That's the only thing we can hope right now, is that he's, A, quick study, and B, willing to learn what it takes to be a successful GM in this league. The problem is he doesn't have a model to build off of because Ray Farmer was not very good.
Just do the opposite of Ray can be the model. But, Matt, I'm tired of giving guys their first shot and hoping, maybe they'll be the star. No, they more often than not, they just come here and learn, make their mistakes, and then might go on somewhere else. And the other problem you mentioned was, all right, well, maybe he can learn and bring in some good scouts. The problem is we have the same scouts from last year, last 2 years. Well, last year, I guess, Ray brought in his new guys through this draft. Scouting changes don't happen until after the draft. So I don't know how much of the decision-making and bad choices were on Ray, and he just didn't take the info the scouts gave him and work with it appropriately, or that our scouts just aren't very good. Either way, we're with the same group.
I think it's part and parcel one to the other. I think the scouting, was looking for a specific type of player as described by the coach and the GM. So they can only do so much with what they've got, and they can only make recommendations. And I'm sure there were better players recommended than what the Browns ended up choosing. The problem is with final say comes a hell of a lot of responsibility to go interview players, to go interview college coaches and assistant coaches and other players, and you have to talk to players at the combine. Ray Farmer was immune to pretty much all of that. He just was arrogant enough to say, no, I don't need to go to pro days. He's the only guy not to go, personnel in the league, not to go to Johnny Manziel's pro day, and yet they end up drafting Johnny Manziel. Never really talked to Justin Gilbert, and then they spent a number 8 overall pick on him. Never spoke with a single quarterback at the combine. In the draft that the Browns really, really needed a quarterback. So he was kind of arrogant to the process, and in my opinion, didn't do his job and didn't do due diligence.
Totally agree.
That was something that he liked to say that he did, was due diligence, but he really didn't do it. When you refuse to talk to people during the scouting process, that's what the process is built for, to give you opportunities to sit in front of players and to find out who they are and see if there's somebody that you can build a franchise around. For all intents and purposes, he completely neglected that his first year, and it showed because he got low-character guys that were incapable of handling the lifestyle of a professional football player.
Yeah, and that arrogance ended up costing him his job and setting this franchise back even further than it was. And Sashi Brown is known as an analytics guy, apparently, so I just hope that they take live in-person interviews and football analysis of players, not just, hey, this guy looks good on a spreadsheet, let's draft him, because then numbers don't show character. Numbers don't show if you love football. And you mentioned Johnny Manziel there. Let's get to the Barkov and hear from some of our listeners on what they think of the Johnny Manziel fiasco. At Andy MC81, at Matt Florjancic. And Matt, you drew up the question mark on last week's show. How can Johnny come in so many days after the game and then have concussion issues? Well, now it's been reported that perhaps it wasn't a concussion. It sounds like he showed up disheveled and inebriated, is the quote from Tony Grossi of ESPN Cleveland. And the Browns kind of did him a solid to not out him and make themselves look foolish. How did Johnny repay them? He went to Vegas, used his player card, got outed, then tried to lie about it again. More lies. If it doesn't show you have a problem, Matt, he continues to lie about it, posting on his Instagram that he was at home with his dog on Saturday night. Then the Browns couldn't find him Sunday. He no-showed the meeting. Matt, as much as a Johnny guy as I am, I'm done with Johnny. And it pains me to say, and I think that the organization has to be done and that Johnny is done with Cleveland. You have from at Ken Hogg at 35 start on Twitter saying, likely JF is gone. I guess that's okay. All signs are he wants out. And that's one note. You have multiple ones saying that he wants out. And let's see, from Casey Dolson, get rid of Johnny, tired of this guy. There's a couple more we'll get to in a minute. But, Matt, your reaction to Johnny, just Johnny's situation, the no-show, Vegas, and all of it.
My reaction is that the young man has serious problems,
yeah.
And he's got to be willing to account for those issues if he ever wants to get better as a football player and as a person. From a football player standpoint, that's really moot at this point. He has to improve himself as a person. He clearly still has problems with substances, and it looks like he's becoming a pathological liar who knows he makes mistakes and is trying to cover his tracks while doing it, which is something that a 12-year-old does. So there's a lot of maturation that has to go into this in this young man before